Hello, everybody, and welcome to another rambling of the communisms. So, this video, I want to answer some common questions I get about the ideology. Again, this is less scripted. I've got a list of questions, and I'm going to answer them on the fly. So, I might horrifically fail, which would be entertaining, wouldn't it? So, there you go. Stay tuned for when I inevitably mess up. First question: what about people who have worked hard and have made their own fortune? Well, it depends what type of person they are, because there's a difference between someone who's made their fortune from being a business owner and someone who's made their fortune from being a doctor or a scientist. See, I've got absolutely no problem with rich people. I have problem with bosses. And, there is a slight difference. At the same time, of course, you don't need 7 yachts. But say you are a doctor and you have a lot of money, I'm not going to come and say, "Oh, you're evil," because you're not. You're inherently working class anyway. You work. So when you say, "Oh, what about people with a lot of money?" It honestly depends who you're talking about. When we're talking about the bosses, we'd simply say, you cannot be a boss anymore. You either work or you just, I don't know, you work or, hate to say it, goodbye. We're going to exile you. Um, but yeah, like, if you're a doctor, instead of work, we got no problem. Just instead of you working to make yourself richer, you'd work to make everyone richer. Second question. Of I usually get this as a follow-up. What about charitable businessmen? They're usually talking about, is it Bill Gates? Is it they vow to die penniless, something like that, which is very admirable, certainly. But I don't. This is going to sound horrible for a second. I don't think charity is a good thing because people shouldn't need charity in the first place. Charity is recovery instead of prevention. So instead of giving the poor money, I ask, why are they poor? And the conclusion I so often reach is capitalism. So naturally, in my ideal society, we try and eliminate the need for charity because instead of people being driven out of houses, out of jobs because they need to make greater profit, people would keep their jobs because, oh, well, people would keep their jobs and keep their land and lead happy lives because there's no reason they shouldn't. It's totally okay for them to do that. Uh, Next one is okay, we got the classic here, guys. Should a bin man and a doctor be paid the same? No. Moving on. Okay, I'll answer that one a little bit seriously now. So, bin men and doctors, naturally, of course, one of them does a slightly more important job. But, under communism, of course, you wouldn't work for money. In our current society, do I think they should be paid the same? No. I don't think the gap should be as great as it is, but no, I don't think they should be paid the same. However, under communist society, I don't believe people would get paid would get paid anything. People would work out of respect and because they knew if they don't work, then they set the bar low, no one works, everyone dies. Okay, that's a little bit scary, but it's the way it is. That's how the world works at the moment anyway. If everyone stops working, they die. It's just a little less intimidating when everyone's working together rather than you're all competing for one little position at the bottom of the company. So, under communism, say you had that doctor, he would do his work, and, he would do the necessary work, which might not even be that much because, he can go home whenever his work is done. He doesn't have to fill in an hour quota. So, he does his job, goes home, lives a comfortable life. Bin man does his job, goes home, leads a comfortable life. Both of them are satisfied with their jobs. And I don't think there would be any less doctors because people would just do jobs they're passionate about. Like, yeah, I could be a bin man, but I kind of aspire to be a programmer, and that is a bloody difficult job, but I genuinely enjoy programming. And under communism, I wouldn't just go, oh, I can get away with being a bin man, it's paid the same, who cares? I would still work towards that, and I would like to think the majority of the people share my mindset. Next question is, how come capitalist countries are so often happier and richer than communist ones if communism is so great? Well, there's two ways of comparing them. What you've done is you've compared a capitalist country to a communist country and seen that the capitalist one is happier. However, to analyse the happiness of a communist country, I think you have to, and the wealth, I think you have to compare it to itself before it was rich. You see, but before it was communist even, not rich, because that's kind of why this question came up, isn't it? Um, but you see, if you have a country like Cuba, that was, yes, under Castro, life wasn't as good as life in the US. But you know what? It was so much better than before Castro. You know, before Castro, they had like nothing. There were prostitutes and beggars on every street. And yeah, under Castro, the houses aren't very nice, and the streets don't look very appealing. But they look darn, they look so much more appealing than before Castro was in power. You never see pictures of Batista's regime, because if you did, you'd realise how valuable communism is and how much it has improved that country. And before someone says, oh, I've got family from Cuba, they say it's terrible. Well, I'm going to ask your family, what did they do, huh? What did they do before Castro came into power? Well, they were probably landowners, all right? So stop getting on your high horse about your family having a poor experience. I'm aware they probably didn't like Castro, but you know why? It's probably because they exploited the working class under Batista. Human nature is the next point. Everyone says, oh, humans are naturally greedy. Communism wouldn't work. Well, human nature can be changed, let's be honest. You grow up in a system that teaches you to compete. It teaches you that money is desirable, and that's what feeds greed. Humans aren't naturally greedy. And yes, if you gave a baby a cake, it would probably keep it to itself. However, if you gave a 2-year-old a cake and you had taught it that compassion was an important value, it would probably share it, right? Schooling is so important, and whether you like it or not, we do indoctrinate our kids into capitalism without realizing it. So under communism, schooling would just cut that bit out. We wouldn't say, oh, work hard, you'll get a good job, you'll get a lot of money, you can pursue your dreams. We'd say, you can pursue your dreams. We'd cut out the bit about working hard, getting money, because that is inherently capitalist. Working hard and having money doesn't mean happiness. And that's why greed is so prominent in capitalist society, because we're taught to accumulate wealth, and that will make us happier. And of course, everyone wants to be happy, but the reality is, happiness doesn't come from money, and people just need to be taught that. Uh, and of course, another one I get from capitalists quite a lot is, what about Stalin and the Soviet Union? That was horrible. Well, I'm not going to debate you as to whether Stalin was horrible, because I am going to end up annoying people whatever I say. But what I am going to say is, Stalinism and just the Soviet Union in general followed a very narrow form of communism. It's not the same as libertarian communism in the slightest. In my opinion, they sort of perverted the definition of communism. They transformed it from being worker control of the means of production, and they made it government control of the means of production, which are two very different things. And in my opinion, the same problems arise under authoritarian communism that arise under authoritarian capitalism. And libertarian capitalism, for that matter. Authoritarian left, to me, yes, it is slightly better than the right wing. However, it still has some of those key problems with the workers not getting as much of a say in their work as they should. And I believe in communism because of freedom, whereas authoritarian communists believe in communism because they believe it's better for the country. Or, well, some of the most extreme ones do. But, you know, I genuinely believe libertarian communism is the way forward, because I value people's individuality while still being a communist, and I think libertarian communism is the only one that lets you do that. And lastly, Communism has killed 100 million, is it now? The predicted figure in, what is it, like 80 years? And yeah, that's a pretty terrible number, but if you look at the amount of people that capitalism has killed, that's really, really small, because everyone dies. And I might add that some of those figures are because of a famine, and, that's hardly reliable, because that's like comparing a country where you can't grow food to a country where you can grow loads of food and saying, oh, look, the country where you can grow loads of food is better. They have more food, therefore everything about that country is correct. That's just false equivalence, and it makes no sense. And that is the list of arguments that people throw at me. Um, and those responses were entirely improvised, so some of them may have been really crappy. But anyway, that's the end of the video now. So have a nice day, have a communist day, goodbye, yes.